Today, we are getting down to business. What's up, ghouls and gals? Welcome back. I always call myself a self-appointed horror historian. I've spent all of my 20s and my 30s so far fully engulfed in horror in every kind of genre and everything possible about the horror umbrella. And one thing that I do think I neglect here on the channel is classic horror movies. And I think Tubi has become a really great resource for said classic horror movies. So today I thought I would just take the opportunity to make a quick top 5 of classic horror movies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that you may have missed, may have skipped, or possibly have never heard of. This will be our 9th Tubi video here on this channel, but because this list is only 5 videos long, it makes our list on Letterboxd up to 85 movies. So if you'd like to follow along with that and you're looking for more recommendations, check that out, link down below, as well as everywhere else you can see more of me or support the channel any further. Let's get right into 5 classic horror movies I don't think you've ever seen that are streaming free currently now on Tubi. I guess I'll start off with the 50s, move into the 60s, and then finish with the 70s. So let's start off with The Thing from Another World from 1951. Scientists and U.S. Air Force officials fend off a bloodthirsty alien organism while investigating a remote Arctic outpost. If this sounds familiar to you, yes, this is the source material for John Carpenter's The Thing. But I do feel like this is essential viewing, especially if you are fans of The Thing from the 80s. So that's my only pick for the 50s for this video, but I definitely have more we can talk about. So let's move into the 60s, first at number 4 with The Blanchville Monster from 1963. The beautiful young daughter of a crazed count fears that she will fall victim to the family's curse, to be sacrificed and fulfill an ancient family legend. Now, this movie is a mixture of, I want to say it has giallo elements before that really, like the craze blew up, but it also fuses Edgar Allan Poe stories with giallo elements, if that makes sense to you. It pulls from The Fall of the House of Usher, Some Words with a Mummy, and A Tale of Ragged Mountains. So if that sounds up your alley, definitely check this one out. My other pick from the 60s comes from 1965, Dr. Terror's House of Terrors. Aboard a British train, a mysterious fortune teller, Dr. Shrek, uses tarot cards to read the futures of 5 fellow passengers. This is an anthology, and I'm a sucker for an anthology. Now, this movie stars Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Donald Sutherland, among many others, but Donald Sutherland famously hated this movie, which I think is hilarious. But let's move into our 70s movies, starting with, from 1976, The Food of the Gods. A group of friends travel to a remote Canadian island to hunt, only to be attacked by giant killer animals that have populated the area. I may be a little partial to this because I love a Canucksploitation. I am very much Canadian. Now, one thing I think is interesting with this movie is that Ray Harryhausen was initially going to take this project on, and my dad would always show me Ray Harryhausen films early on in my life, Jason and the Argonauts being like the one that stuck the most. I am not a religious girl, but like those movies are... The stop motion is so important in those, the 10 Commandments, like all of those movies that Ray Harryhausen worked on, I think were so important. I just think that with the giant animal aspect of it, it would have been so cool to see what he would have done with that story. And speaking of stories, this is an H.G. Wells story, and there's actually a sequel to The Food of the Gods, just called The Food of the Gods Part 2. Okay, let's finish off this list with something a little more sleazy with Seizure from 1974. A disturbed author's house party becomes a scene of carnage when 3 of his homicidal creations appear. And I don't know about you, but that gives me Cenobites. You know, the homicidal creations. I know they're not like totally homicidal, but just the creations appearing, it makes me feel like a Cenobite. Now, this movie was directed by the Oliver Stone, and he actually hates this movie. He denounced the first 2 movies that he made and just quietly said that like the 3rd movie that he made would have been his first film. He also called this movie a baptism by fire, and I think it's fitting for the alleged shit show that it was, if I could just get my words. But I will leave you there. That is 5 classic horror movies on Tubi that you can watch for free now. If you're like me, you just like learning about horror and the origins of horror. And I think The Thing from Another World is a very important movie, especially with the origins of horror. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've heard of or seen any of these movies. Let me know if you want to watch any of these movies. Let me know if I did a good job again at finding movies that are so under the radar. So I will see you in the next video for a podcast episode, and then we are moving into another installment to our I Finally Watched series. This time we are doing movies that start with the letter V, if that is any kind of clue for you. Okay, I'll leave you there. I'll see you so soon. Sayonara, Spooky fam.